Hello, you're watching Encore with me, Richelle Harrison Plesse. Coming up on today's film show. A well-meaning father rigs the system in his desperate bid to give his daughter a better life in the award-winning Romanian film, Graduation. A woman returns from exile to dig up the past and solve a family mystery, but she ruffles some feathers in her search for answers. And Brad Bird's modern animated classic, The Iron Giant, is remastered for movie screens here in France.
I am the luckiest.
And to talk about those films, I'm joined by France 24 film critic Lisa Nesselson. Good to see you, Lisa.
Hello, Richelle.
Hi. Now, we kick off with a Romanian film that shared the directing prize at Cannes this year. Baccalaureate hit screens here in France this week. The English title is Graduation. So just how educational a viewing experience is it?
Oh, a substantial one, I'd say. It's a sort of a crash course in the fact that the skills one needed in order to survive in Ceausescu's dictatorship in the communist era aren't necessarily the same ones that are fully appropriate in contemporary Romania. This is an ultimately devastating social realist satire by Cristian Mungiu, who won the top prize in Cannes back in 2007 with his chilling Soviet-era drama that I recommend, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. In 2012, his incredibly disconcerting Beyond the Hills won Best Screenplay, and his lead actresses shared the Best Actress prize. So his track record for attracting awards tells us that he's very, very good at depicting Romanian characters trapped in horrible situations. We do not want to be them, but he's so skilled at depicting them that we can't help but get caught up in their problems. So Romeo is a doctor who lives with his wife and their daughter Eliza in a crumbling apartment block. Romeo and his wife left communist Romania, but they came back after the 1989 revolution, and they really wish they hadn't. Their daughter has a scholarship to attend university in England, contingent on doing well on her high school exams. And she's a good student, but the day before the exams, she's sexually assaulted, and her father becomes terrified that she'll be too rattled to do well on her tests and concentrate. So he decides to pull strings to guarantee that she'll get a good final grade. And the strings he pulls are pretty drastic. They include things like moving up a key official on an organ transplant list. He knows he's behaving badly, but he loves his daughter, and he believes her only chance for a better life is to get the hell out of Romania. Let's take a look.
Tu crezi că pentru noi e ușor? Asta e viața. Copiii trebuie să se rupă de părinți și să trăiască pe picioarele lor.
Tata, să nu te superi dacă n-am să fac mie totul la teză, da?
Eliza, tu trebuie să faci ce poți tu mai bine, pentru că e păcat să pierzi șansa asta. Sunt unele lucruri importante în viață care depind de foarte puțin. Și anumite momente nu trebuie pierdute.
So, Lisa, the film takes a hard look at grassroots corruption, and it seems to imply that it's running rampant in Romanian society.
Oh, yeah. It's a sharp examination of how good intentions can warp ethical principles. We have every reason to believe that Romeo has been an honest man up until now, but the stakes are too high not to try and tip the scales in his daughter's favor by calling in a bunch of favors. And he has to do this in record time while doing his medical duties and keeping his mistress at bay and not letting his daughter know what he's actually up to. France 24 spoke to the writer-director about his pared down but insightful filming style. Let's look.
My signature style and what I try to achieve in my films is not to be seen. When you're a filmmaker, you make lots of choices. You choose the themes, the actors, the cast, you set up the frame. So I chose the style of long shots with the aim of giving the audience the freedom and the responsibility of deciding what's most important for them in the film.
Right, Lisa, let's move on to another film that's out in France this week, a European-produced film set in Lebanon called Go Home, which explores the theme of exile and the heavy toll it takes. The movie stars an arthouse darling, one of the most versatile actresses working today.
Golshifteh Faharani. She's Iranian and cannot safely go back to her country. She's taken French citizenship, as a matter of fact. But here she plays a Lebanese woman named Nada, who returns from exile in the West to her family's home in the Lebanese village where she lived as a child, only to learn that the local population really does not want her there. The world, alas, of course, is full of displaced people, some of whom start over in new locations and some of whom dream of returning to where they think they belong. Now, this is a first film made by Jayan Shayabe, yeah, I knew that would happen, made by a very talented first-time female film director who was born in Beirut and was forced to flee the country as a child during the Lebanese Civil War. And it's in French, English, and Arabic, just like Prosvegata. So Nada finds this family home ransacked and spray-painted in what I would say a hostile type is Go Home on the wall. She's this fearlessly modern contemporary woman harboring vague childhood memories involving the backyard of the villa and her grandfather's disappearance. Her brother shows up with instructions from their father to sell the house, but they can't really do that until they find out what happened to the grandfather. And clues as to what happened to him are very sketchy in her memories of being a young girl. Let's take a look.
أنت كنت تعرف جدة؟
إيه أكيد، كيف ما بدي أعرفه؟
كنت صحاب؟
أحسن لك ما تعرفي حاجة حركي.
أنت كنت زعيم هون.
بالراس.
Well, we spoke to the actress Golshifteh Faharani about the impact of exile. She once said it's like living with one arm. It's painful, but you eventually make do. Take a listen.
People like me will never find home. Where we're originally from, for example, Iran, is no longer the country I knew before I left. I don't recognize Iran today. We don't belong anywhere. Our home is our suitcase. Home is made of love, family, and art. For me, home is playing Anna Karenina, and it's acting in front of Jim Jarmusch's lens.
Right, so let's move on to something a little bit more uplifting now. A Hollywood icon who's blowing out the candles this week. Kirk Douglas, dubbed one of the last living screen legends, is celebrating his 100th birthday.
Well, in the middle of the First World War, the man we now know as Kirk Douglas was born to dirt-poor, illiterate immigrants from Russia in a place called Amsterdam, New York. Now, there's a lot of unfortunate talk in the world today about how undesirable immigrants are. And anti-Semitism just keeps getting rekindled in ways that are irresistible to ignorant people. So I think it's worth pointing out, since nobody doesn't like Kirk Douglas, that Kirk Douglas was born Isur Danielovich, and his family were Orthodox Jews. Douglas, who's of course the father of actor Michael Douglas, has led an incredible life. There's no other way to put it. He's a fine actor, of course, but he also started his own company in the 1950s when that was both unusual and risky. He made a screen debut in 1946. That's 70 years ago, and longevity is kind of a keystone of his life because he's been married to his Belgian-born wife for over 60 years. So I'd like to single out a few of his most memorable performances, starting with Paths of Glory, a masterpiece about the idiocy of war directed by Stanley Kubrick. Now, it was made in 1957, but banned in France until 1978. Now, why is that? Well, because it's set in France about the time Douglas was born during World War I. And in it, a group of French soldiers are ordered to carry out a suicidal mission. And when they fail, 3 of them are arbitrarily singled out to be shot by firing squad in order to set an example. This is alleged cowardice, and for some reason, the commanding officer thinks that if he shoots 3 of them, everybody else who's left will be braver the next time around. Douglas plays an officer who tries everything he can to save his men from this ludicrous and incredibly unfair fate. In 1960, Douglas took on the title role in Spartacus, playing the distinctive slave who takes on, the whole Roman Empire.
That was the big, one of the big roles, wasn't it?
That film was also directed by Kubrick, but one of the things that's most important for us today is that Douglas hired then blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo, which was really, really a risk for him, and insisted on putting Trumbo's name in the end credits and in the beginning credits, which effectively broke the Hollywood blacklist. Capitalizing on a certain physical resemblance, he played Vincent van Gogh in Lust for Life, which was shot primarily here on location in France. Other films, Billy Wilder's Dark, Dark Ace in the Hole, also known as The Big Carnival, in which Douglas plays a cynical reporter who stumbles on a story, milks it for all it's worth. It's a man trapped in an Indian ruin. It was made in 1951, and it still rings absolutely true about the three-ring circus that can result when you try to drum up headlines at the expense of what I'd call basic human decency. Douglas survived a 1991 helicopter crash in which other people were killed, and he recovered most of his ability to speak after a stroke that should have killed him in 1996. Douglas also blogs and has been called the oldest celebrity blogger in the world. Happy birthday, Izzer Dainelovich.
Well, happy birthday indeed. And finally, the 1999 cult animated film The Iron Giant is getting a re-release in French theatres. Brad Bird's debut work is a modern classic, and it's been remastered with 2 scenes never before seen by French audiences.
That's right. Bird is the brilliant animator behind The Incredibles and Ratatouille. It's the story of a boy named Hogarth who stumbles upon a very large robot from outer space. This is the height of the Cold War. It's shortly after Sputnik was launched by the Russians, and so the local military just assumed this has got to be some enemy contraption from China or Russia. It's an extraordinarily fine piece of animation, and the story really, really holds up.
Okay, well, we'll leave you with a clip of the so-called signature edition of The Iron Giant. Thanks once again to our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Good to see you as always. For more arts and culture news, head to our website and connect with us on social media. Stay with us here on France 24. Lots more coming up after this.
We gotta show them you're good. You are what you choose to be.
I'm Superman. Stop it at all costs.
Let's get out of here! Run!
Ready to attack?
My son is out there! Gotta help him. Hogarth, no! I'm swimming! Ah! Giant?